guys here at Next Level for allowing us to participate in setting up this event. We've been looking forward to it for a while now. Just to kind of give you an idea who we are, I'm Jason McClain. I'm the regional sales manager here in the state of Georgia. Okay, I'm here to help you on the sales related stuff and help you, as a resource in general. Okay, this is Aaron Boyette. Aaron Boyette is our sales engineer for the state of Georgia. So he's your technical resource. What we would like to say, guys, is we're here to help you. All right. So you can call us as your first points of contact for really anything. Okay. If we don't know the answer, we know where to escalate that stuff up to. That way it doesn't leave you guys in a game of phone tag with maybe the home office in California where all our tech support and stuff is done. Okay. So utilize us as much as you possibly can. All right, we're here to help you through the stuff. I always like to say that I'm the guy that'll get you into trouble. He's the guy that'll get you out of it. All right. So, with that being said, what we're going to do is we're going to break this down into two portions. First portion is going to be a little bit of a sales overview. I'm going to show you some new stuff, just kind of bring it to your attention, let you see kind of what the latest and greatest is. And after that, Aaron's going to take the reins and show you some of the technical aspects of our systems and things of that nature to kind of help you build a little bit more knowledge, maybe teach you a thing or two that, a couple of tricks of the trade that make life a little bit easier. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off here and I want to just kind of explain who Hikvision is. I mean, some of you guys may know us just by our products, but I want you to understand that as a company, we're a global company. We are a very, very big company. So who is Hikvision? We're a company that focuses on technologies of IoT, the Internet of Things, okay? So a lot of the stuff that we do is really on the edge. What that means is we're doing all the analytics and processing at the camera level instead of the head-end level, all right? In most cases, not in all cases, but in some cases. So just kind of give you an idea of our footprint. We're branches, we have offices all over the globe. We have over 100,000 technology partners. We service 150 different countries, and we were founded in 2001, and we are a growing company with, again, global presence. So for anybody that's not in the state of Georgia, just regionally speaking, we have counterparts and the same type of team structure in almost every state, okay? So if anybody needs that information, we can supply it to you. That way, if you're in South Carolina, North Carolina, Tennessee, wherever it may be, that you have a local contact to talk to as well. Our core business is really in security. It's in our bread and butter is surveillance. We also do access control. We also do intercom. And so, we do some alarm system stuff too. It's kind of a smaller part of our business. We also do integrated security. So we're able to take all the components that make up an overall security system and bring them into one platform. All right. So if somebody does need one pane of glass to be able to manage everything from their access control to their cameras and all that kind of stuff, we can do that. We offer everything from mobile solutions all the way up to, just your basic, camera kits and things of that nature for small business and residential type of applications. We are the largest security company in the world. We supply North America, we supply Asia, we supply everywhere, all right? So we're everywhere in the world, and we also provide stuff to other companies as well. We have done we're on the bleeding edge of technology, okay? So there's a lot of things that we've developed and patented that we actually license out to other companies, and it's created new industry standard as time has gone on, such as compression and things of that nature. So again, you can see a lot of people to talk to, and we service wherever you may be. So if you end up over in India, We got somebody in India for you. Manufacturing facilities is over in China. We are, I think we got one in Mexico too. Yeah, so we've got these manufacturing facilities everywhere, and they're all state of the line, state of the art, I should say. They're very impressive little places. I shouldn't say little; they're big. They're huge. The other thing, like I mentioned, is our R&D, research and our development teams are top notch. We have a ton of these guys that are constantly developing these new technologies and introducing them into the product line and in the market. You can also see that we carry over 4,600 patents as a company. So some of the things we've developed is our imaging technology, some AI stuff. We cloud computing, and we can get into that later, if you have any questions. But we also do stuff with the video codec, which is kind of the bigger piece to everything, is how we're processing all that imagery and decoding and encoding that imagery to make it more efficient as the systems are commissioned out there in the field. We also do different services such as software as a service and some of these things here. So just kind of give you an idea that we're not just a camera company, we're a technology company. And to me, that's very important. You can see some of our partnerships here. We offer open APIs to companies to do some development based on our stuff, which happens all the time. App developers, analytic providers, call centers, we really do everything. Some of the applications that we're very prevalent in are safe cities in some parts of the world, transportations in parts of the world as well, utilities and energy. We do a lot of retail, banking, manufacturing is another big one, education, healthcare, and just simple local community type stuff, residential sort of applications. Even doing essentially like a big HOA sort of setup where they want perimeter protection around their neighborhood. So these are some of the bigger stories that they've done in various places throughout the world. You can see it's everything from a coal mine to traffic management, where the roundabouts have 10 lanes. We wouldn't know what to do with that over here. I think I'd probably have a wreck every day if I had to drive one of those. Windmill fields, and a little bit of everything, guys. That would be cool. They do have cameras there. Yeah, they do. I've driven by it many a time too. So that's just a general idea of who we are. So you guys, understand that we are a very large company. We are on the bleeding edge of everything, and the way I like to describe it is, we really have something for everybody. Okay, and we want to work with you. All right. With that being said, I'm gonna switch gears. I'm gonna kind of get into some product stuff here. Feel free to ask any questions as we go. So before I get too deep into this, there's a couple of technologies that I want to go ahead and reference that I'm going to be referring to as I move forward here. One is AccuSense and the other one's Motion 2.0, okay? So the burning question is, what is AccuSense? AccuSense is a technology we've developed, and we've put it in both our cameras and certain NVRs and recorders, okay? So what we've got is we've got a learning algorithm with a higher chipset that processes this stuff to help build a more target classified efficient system to make the information easier to get to when an event does happen. So in standard motion's been around forever, and motion is just a pixel change, right? So that pixel change can cause a lot of nuisances and false positive sort of alarms. So at the end of the day, when somebody has had something happen and they're going in to find that information and they're trying to find it via a motion event, there could be tons of motion events if bags are flying by, the clouds are passing by, setting off those recordings and flagging them in the hard drive. So what AccuSense does is it gives you parameters that you can set inside of your recorders or in the cameras, kind of depending on where that technology resides, to help filter out of these nuisance alarms of an animal, the clouds, environmental things, rain, things like that. So once you set these event triggers, then what we're looking at is we're just looking at the important information. 9 out of 10 times, we're looking for a person and we're looking for the car that they came in with, right? 9 out of 10 times. And occasionally there's that odd request of I want to see the deers feeding in the field behind my house and stuff like that, but we're going to overall ignore all that information from this context. I'm not saying we can't notify on a deer if somebody wants to. I bring that up because it's come up about 3 times. And I find it funny. I'm like, okay, well, just log in and just watch it, I mean, it's a wildlife camera at that point, right? The other technology, I'm sorry, let me, before I get too hard ahead of myself. So the target classification, again, is going after that person or vehicle and ignoring the nuisance stuff like the animals, the birds, the clouds changing, headlights, things of that nature, and also being able to determine if it's a person, because an algorithm for a person is usually, it's looking for something tall and slender, and a car is looking for something short and long, essentially, right? So if you have a cow that walks into the scene, yeah, it might set off a false positive because it kind of fills that algorithm. It's a little bit more fine-tuned than that, but, it has happened. But when people tend to move, and let's say they're, in the middle of commissioning a crime or something, they're ducking, they're crawling, they're climbing through stuff. So we're still able to, that algorithm's still sensitive enough to recognize a person if they're in a weird shape in most cases, all right? Down here at the bottom is what is our perimeter protection type stuff, which is another function of AccuSense, which is you can draw a trip line, a virtual fence line. That way if people walk in or out or bidirectionally, you can get notifications on that. So say it's an area where they shouldn't be going into, you can get those notifications, and you can get them in real time, not just forensically. We also do region of interest, and we can also do intrusion zones. So if you just want to be, notified if there's somebody walking into a certain area and the rest of the scene is not exactly that critical, then we can do that as well. And there's a few other things built into that as well. The other thing I'm going to be referring to is Motion 2.0. Motion 2.0 is another filter built on AccuSense. So inside of not all our cameras, but the majority of the cameras, and the cameras I'm going to be focusing on here, this is going to be the technology that's built into it. It's a default setting inside the camera that has already been enabled to detect for person and vehicle. All right. So the way this relates to each other is if I just want person and vehicle, I can put out certain product line, certain cameras, and I'm already going to get that feature. Okay. Now, if I want to specify that, then I can jump back to my AccuSense stuff and I can set my intrusion areas and things like that, my virtual fence lines, and be able to say it was a person that came into my intrusion zone, right? So it's really just drilling down, fine-tuning that to make it easier for the customer. Down here at the bottom of this slide, this is actually just a screenshot of the searching menu as you go and do playback. At the bottom of the playback, there's these 2 little icons right here. So if you're looking for one or the other or both, you just highlight those. You'll click on that, and what it does is it shows you your bar down here, which shows you red was a person and or vehicle, and the blue was not. All right. We also give you an option that's not shown here that says skip normal video, which means it'll skip the blue pieces, and it'll just go to the next red event on the time bar. So what are you getting out of that? Essentially what you're getting is you're getting the target classification through the machine vision of the equipment. It gives you quick target searching and then high decoding capacity, which means you're able to download that information quickly and efficiently. All right. So these are going to be our NVR solutions. I'm going to be talking about our K-Series and our M-Series. The K-Series And the M series do have a difference to them, besides just being the way they're built. Your K series goes from a 4 to 16 channel. Is that right? 16? Yeah. 4 to 16. And then your M series will go from 8 to 128? 256. No, it's not 256 now.
I don't know if there's an M.
I'll challenge you on that one. I'll challenge you on that one. But the K series actually offers the AccuSense technology on the head end. So if you have a retrofit you're going into, they've got some legacy IP cameras. What you can do is you can go in there and change out the head end and add some smarts to those dumb cameras. Okay. The M series is going to be different because the deployment's going to be all the technology is going to come from the cameras. Because if we're doing all the processing at the camera level, it makes everything a lot more manageable on the head end. All right. So your K series is going to be more cost effective. Like I said, it'll go up to 16 channels. And this just kind of gives you a little breakdown of the 4.8 and the 16. We support all compression modes. It's all kind of dependent on the camera, so we'll do the old school MPEG, JPEGs, H.264, 265, and 265 plus. So essentially, the current standard, did you say it's kind of 50-50, 264, 265? It's not entirely 265 yet.
So every single one of our cameras have the ability of doing 265. The majority of the market, I would still say, is running 264.
Yep.
But that's changing every single day. Every other company is running H.265 at this point as well. The more the cameras start to go out, the more the new cameras start to go in. We're definitely seeing a big transition from H.264 to H.265.
Yep. So essentially the comparison of 264, this all goes into your compression, the way the video is transmitted, and it's also stored on your hard drives. So 264, it compresses it a certain amount. 265 actually takes that and cuts it in half, or adds another half to that. So if you're getting 2 weeks out of a recorder at 264, then you're going to end up with 3 weeks at 265 essentially. All right. 265 plus will now add another, say, 50% to that. Okay. Now, sometimes that can affect the way the video is seen through some apps. I've seen it, so the compression rate it also is in regard to transmission as well. So sometimes H.265 plus may cause a little bit of warping on a camera on the app or something like that. But overall, it's pretty dependable. And that just helps get to those storage capacities that are always being requested. Sometimes those requests are pretty high up there. Sometimes somebody says 2 weeks is fine. Sometimes some people say they want indefinite. We can do a lot. We can't do indefinite, but we can help with the storage capacity. All right. So M series. A little bit more simple of a slide here, just kind of give you a good frame concept here. Like I said, it goes from 8 to 128 channels. You didn't see a 256, did you? Okay, thought so. Who's the technical guy now? Hey?
Your product guys don't show the 128s either.
I know. I didn't print those. That ain't my fault.
They'll be coming.
Yeah. So the bigger difference between your K series to your M series is going to be your incoming and outgoing bandwidths. All right. The way that affects everything is how much you can encode and decode at the same time. Okay. Meaning you can bring in a certain amount of cameras at certain resolutions and certain feature sets, and you can play back a certain amount of those cameras at certain resolutions and certain sets. Okay. On the M series, that goes up. It goes up pretty significantly too. So essentially a K series is good for medium business, small commercial type applications. All right. Where you would get into the M series is the M series is going to be better if you're doing something a little bit more customized, all right, or you're doing a larger quantity of cameras. Is probably the bigger piece. So, but we can support 8K cameras on this. When we say 8K, we mean 32 megapixel. If anybody needs a 32 megapixel, be happy to sell them to you. You can see across a stadium and be able to count the hairs on a fly if you want. But we also can output that resolution into 8K as well. All right. The other thing is too is on your K series. Your K series, when it comes to the networking piece, you have one NIC card. That NIC card is what you're going to interface with your network on. Okay, it stands for Network Interface Card. So if you have one NIC card on it, that's going to go into the network. That way you can view everything remotely. The M series gets into the point where you have two NIC cards. So the M series, there's a certain set of models that do not have built-in PoE. Some of the more lower, I think the 32 has 16, if I remember correctly.
32 has 16. It's got a version of 16, 24, and then 0 as well.
Right. Yep. So what this helps in is it helps with the deployment. All right. So if it needs to be more strategic, all right. A lot of times, you know, you'll just pull everything back to that switch that's built on those NVRs because you're able to. You're within 328 feet of being able to get those cameras back to that PoE switch that's built onto the head end. When you get into the M series, you may need to put a switch, you know, on one side of the warehouse and another switch over here. And the way we help kind of distribute the load of those cameras is by that second interface card that I was referring to. So what you can do is you can essentially daisy chain your switches together and bring them back to that second network interface card, and you're keeping it off the customer's network as a whole with the exception of that one touch point so they can view it all remotely from that other NIC card. Make sense? And we're here to help you through that stuff, guys. I mean, so if you're like, look, I'm designing a system, what do you think is the best way to do it? You know, you call me or you call Aaron and we'll talk about the details and we'll help you through all of it, guys. We do it every day. I think we've gotten pretty good at it. And I've had a couple of compliments lately, which means I'm not totally screwing it up. So I'm going to be switching gears. We're going to go into cameras. I'm going to talk about our color view stuff. So color view is a family of cameras we've developed to help with night imaging. All right. So in the past, traditionally speaking, what you've had is you've had standard IR cameras, right? It's color at day, at night, it turns into black and white. You have a cut filter, you have the IRs that illuminate. Those illuminators are as good as for what they can see. You know, they require a lot of reflectivity. And as you do playback, you don't get color attribute sort of searches. I can't tell if you're wearing a blue shirt or a red shirt or, you know, the color of your car or anything of that nature. So what color view does is we remove the IRs, the IR illumination, and we replaced it with supplemental white light illuminators on it instead. All right. So the cameras themselves are actually low lux cameras, which means that they'll take in a lot of ambient light before they switch over to color view. And once it goes essentially pitch black, that light will come on, and that light will stay on for the duration of the lighting condition. All right. And what that does is it illuminates the scene. Now I can tell you're wearing a blue shirt or you're driving a green car, you know, and all that kind of stuff. The other thing that it helps with too, which is on this next slide here, actually, let's skip there. So this is a scene of an IR versus a color view camera, right? So if you're ever trying to get certain information like off of a license plate with IR, it tends to hit that reflective coating on like a license plate, and it'll reflect back and wash it out so you can't see it, right? So with a color view camera, we're not relying on that illumination to be the IR illumination to let us see that there are things in the scene. We're actually going to be able to give you more detail out of those cameras, okay? So I'm not saying that, you know, this is a license plate camera and we don't have license plates on the front of our cars in 48 states, as far as I know, maybe 47. But this is a good example of the differences between the two. I like how, I just noticed this. I like how they didn't blur this out, but they blurred out his license plate down here. I'm gonna go find that guy. So any questions on the color view or anything? Pretty straightforward. Okay, cool. So in regards to color view, we offer a unique family of kits that are color view kits. We're the only company that offer these in the market. So these kits, they're all in one. You get all the cameras that come with the kit, and you get the head end. Okay. The way we structure them is a 4-channel is going to give you 4 cameras. The 8-channel is going to give you 6 cameras, and the 16-channel is going to give you 12 cameras. The reason we don't give you 8 and 16 is because you may need to supply a varifocal camera. These cameras are all fixed. They're 2.8 millimeters. So you may need a bullet. You may need a specialty type of dome, things of that nature. We do offer the cameras individually if you just need to fill it out with that said camera. We've got those individually as well. But these kits, like I said, they're color view. The cameras themselves are IP67, but they carry no IK rating. So they can go outside, but they're not made out of metal houses. Okay. So color view, you also get the Motion 2.0. It's all built into the kits in the cameras. We also offer 120 decibels of wide dynamic range. If you guys aren't familiar with wide dynamic range, what that used to be, it used to be a problem where if you were in, let's say, a warehouse and somebody wanted to see the back of the trailers as they open the doors and back up and stuff like that, when you open the door to the dock, you had the sunlight coming in, and a lot of times what would happen with the old technologies it would wash out beyond the dock doors, and it would bloom, and you wouldn't be able to see so well. So what wide dynamic range does is it helps with severe lighting conditions, contrasting lighting conditions. All right. So now with 120 dB, I open up the dock door and I can see outside the dock door. And that's just built in by default. So essentially, long way of saying that we handle a lot of different lighting situations in a scene. All right. Got built-in microphones. The microphones, if you want to record, you have to manually cut all that stuff on. It's not by default because of liability concerns, because they vary from county to county, city to city, state to state, yada, yada, yada. So, all right. And I want you guys to understand that we have a very wide family of color view cameras, okay? We got everything from your standard domes and turrets that do the color view and give you the analytics. We also grow into if you need deterrent type of cameras. So if you want a camera that does a strobe and a siren, we get into those as well in these color view families as well. We also offer that in our pan tilt zoom family and our panoramic, which is this guy right here. And we also offer it in our solar family of cameras, which we will get into in a second. Has anybody ever used a panoramic camera? Okay, all right, cool. I hope they're ours. All right, so for those of you that may not be familiar with panoramic, what a panoramic's really good for is if you're doing like a parking yard or a parking lot of some sort. What it does is it takes 2 lenses, stitches them together as one image. That way you get a full 180-degree field of view, and you can see essentially the whole parking lot, of course, depending on how big the parking lot is. So these are really good for those type of situations, or even big like warehousing, that's open warehousing, stuff like that. They can be helpful. And this is just kind of a breakdown of kind of how that works. So essentially what we're doing is we're taking those 2 lenses, and as those 2 lenses, these are 4mm lenses, as they look out, once they get into the point where they cross over, kind of like our eyes do, what it does is the software stitches that image together as a single image. Right? So this is what you end up with at the end of the day. You don't end up with that. All right, we offer them in a couple of different formats, kind of depending on how it needs to be mounted. A lot of times they tend to go on the building. They'll go on the middle of the building in the back, where they're parking the trucks or something like that. If you're doing something like that, then a bullet's really good. But we also offer them in this kind of a dome turret style, which is that little guy right there. So those come with, you can buy the accessories and the pendant caps and poles and stuff like that if you need to come off the wall mounts, all that kind of stuff. Again, ColorView carries the AccuSense technology. These can do a strobe. Maybe I'll wake you guys up and we'll hit a button and make it really loud in here for you. You don't test me, I might. I did it to a friend of mine. He didn't appreciate it because I didn't warn him. Now, another thing that we do is another family of cameras that are still in the ColorView family, but we call them smart hybrids. So, ColorView, there was a little bit of a mixed feedback to it, mostly in like residential applications, because when it got too dark at night, what would happen is that ColorView camera would kick on that white light and it'd be shining into the neighbor's window. And they weren't very happy with that, right? So they go to the HOA and they complain, and now it's a whole thing. So what we did to get away from the light pollution that can be generated through a standard ColorView camera is we took the technology of an IR camera, we took the ColorView, and we put it in one camera. It's essentially what a smart hybrid is. Okay. Now these work. These are interesting because of the way they work. All right. So we're giving you IR when there's no event. We give you the white light when there is event, and we're giving you the smart functionality to make the camera do what it needs to as it sees something in the scene. So essentially, if I set any AccuSense parameters, or we have to set some AccuSense triggers. So you'd have to set like a crosswire, or trip line, or something like that. And what'll happen is the camera itself will stay in IR until somebody crosses that line, and then it'll switch to color, give you everything you need, stay on in color until the event's over, and then a minute after, and then it'll cut back off and revert back to IR. So it cuts out all those complaints. And it kind of makes things a little bit easier to find too. So that's pretty cool. Again, full family. Full family. And I know this just looks like that other slide I showed you, but this is essentially a trigger being set off and the camera flipping over to color. So a couple things to take note of. IR tends to have a glare, reflecting effect a lot of times on glass and other types of surfaces. When it switches to ColorView, you notice that glare goes away, and I can tell exactly what she's wearing versus the black and white image, which just looks like it could be a standard trench coat or something like that, right? Our solar cameras have been very popular as well, and mainly for the obvious reasons. I mean, you get into certain situations, construction sites or rural sort of applications where you can't get power. So what are you supposed to do, right? I've been in this industry for a long time. I've seen a lot of solar stuff out there, and I've seen a lot of solar stuff that does not work. These things perform as advertised. So here's what makes these things interesting is we offer them 3 separate ways right now, all right? We offer a kit, 2 kits that come with the camera, your mount, your batteries, and your solar array, and your brackets. So it's all in one, all right? Inside that camera, we offer, it's already built with 64 gigs of internal storage. You can build that up to 256 gigs with an SD card. I would recommend getting a Western Digital rewritable SD card, not just a standard SD card that you can get from Walmart or Best Buy or anything like that. Those things aren't going to last as long as these other guys will. And you don't want to go out there every 6 months replacing these things, because these things are going to be high up. Getting back to them is going to be a real nightmare. These 2 cameras here offer the ability to do cellular connectivity as well. All right. So if I need to connect this to my phone, then I go to AT&T, Verizon, or T-Mobile. I get an unlimited data card. There might be some stuff you have to do. I don't want you to misunderstand that it may not be plug and play, all right, sometimes. But I can take that cellular card and I can put it in here. And what that's going to do is going to help you guys. It's going to create a revenue stream for you too, right? Because there's going to be an ongoing cost on that, obviously. We do not provide any of that, just so you know. So if you ask me how much it is, I'm going to tell you, I have no idea. But you can put that in there, and then you can have this connectivity. You can use the Hike Connect app off the phones and your tablets and whatnot, and you can get to the camera. You can manage the camera. You can review the camera. You can do all that stuff. If you need it to record to a recorder, we can do that. It's not a problem. We have a couple of different ways of doing that. All right. So you have a 4 megapixel option. You have an 8 megapixel option up here. So your 4 megapixel option is just the camera. You have no other way to power a bridge or anything off the 4 megapixel as it currently sits. But on the 8 megapixel, you do. It has another output so you can power a bridge. All right. So if you want to record to a recorder, it has to be an M series recorder. Cannot be a K series. It's a firmware thing. And if necessary, we can provide a special firmware to do recording with the cellular connectivity as well. All right, so there's options there. The third option is, let's see, there we go, is just the solar array, the power array itself. So you can bring whatever camera you want to the party here. All right, so if you just buy the power kit, you get the batteries, the solar array, the brackets, and you got some cabling that comes with it. So you can put whatever camera you want onto the bottom of it, and you actually do have you have two outputs, one for the camera, one for a bridge. So that can come in handy. Now you do lose some stuff when you do that, because in reference to the storage on the cameras and the cellular connectivity, that is built into the other two models. It is not provided in just the kit itself. So you would have to do a bridge. And at that point, you really don't need if you're just using this, you don't need a special recorder. You could just do it to a K series if you wanted to. LPRs, anybody ever use LPR cameras? Yeah. Yep. So they come up, they're needed. So these are our standard offerings here. We've got three different offerings. We've got a 2.8 to 12 millimeter, 11 to 40, and an 8 to 32 here. So just kind of depending on your distance, we'll help recommend those. They're all 4 megapixel, but we've added some stuff into the family of license plate recognition cameras that I think is pretty interesting. So with an LPR camera, you always have to have two cameras, right? You got the one that sees the tag, but then you need another one that sees the make and the model of the car, right? So you're always kind of running two cameras. This is actually both cameras that you need in one housing. So it's a bullet style camera. Up here at the top, you got a 4 millimeter fixed, okay? Or I'm sorry, 4 megapixel fixed. And that's going to be your make and model camera. All right, so that's going to give you your overall shot. Below that, you have a varifocal 10 to 50 lens color view camera, or I'm sorry, the 4 megapixels color view as well. Varifocal 8 megapixel LPR camera below that. So it's pretty. It's built to the nines, man. I mean, you've got options if you need a heater in cooler territories or more humid. If you need that, it's got all the technology built into it. It'll actually do multi-target recognition too. So this thing gets pretty sophisticated. So it'll, if I remember correctly, I think it'll identify 5 targets at once. Yep. And this just kind of shows you how sophisticated this one camera could be. So if you wanted to do directional, like if cars going the wrong way, you could do that with this camera. We could do facial feature if we needed to, right? Human body features, as well as the tags and all that other AccuSense stuff, and Motion 2.0 is built into all this too. So it's a lot of stuff in one package. Anybody ever used any of our switches before? Yeah, okay. So, what's that? Oh, okay. All right. Wasn't trying to single you out there, man. You look like you got scared. So our switches are fairly unique. So these are our managed switches. If you want to use our managed switches, you can log in. You can see all the devices. You can see the topology that's out there as far as all the Hikvision devices. So it makes it easier to obviously manage. We can also give you network health monitoring, real-time alarm notifications, things like that. But the things that make us a little bit different is 6 kilovolts of surge protection on every port. You don't get that from some other providers, right? And these things are, very cost effective. The other thing is too, is we support what we call long distance. Long distance is going to be taking your 328 feet and you set it in a long distance mode and it'll take you up to 984 feet. So if you have a long run, then we can accommodate that for the most part. Now, if you're going 2,000 feet or something, maybe we need to talk about a different way of doing it, right? But the switches that are built into our NVRs, even on the kits, can do long transmission mode too, just so you know. So a lot of added value to that.
So one thing that I don't see on there, and just something to note, every single one of our switches, even though they might be a managed switch, comes out of the box as an unmanaged switch. So you'd have to get in there, activate that switch, and then be able to and then log into it to go in and start setting up and managing that switch.
I didn't know that. We also do unmanaged switches if you want to go the simple route as well. Still giving you the 6 kilovolts of surge protection and the long distance transmission modes as well. That's just a fancy way of showing you it goes a long way. Next thing I'm going to talk about is going to be our bridges. Bridges, probably use them a little bit more often than you probably want to sometimes, don't you? Yep. So we offer, we got bridges. What we do is the way we sell them is we sell them individually. We don't sell them in pairs. So you'll have to buy at least 2 to make it work. All right. These things will go up to 3 miles in open air. So they'll cover a lot of ground. Of course, you want clear line of sight. Very easy to configure. You only have to log into the switch or the antenna one time. And all you have to do is set it to United States frequencies. That's all you got to do. Unfortunately, out of box, it's not defaulted that way. I wish it was. Maybe they'll make a change. I don't know. We'll see. But what makes them so easy to program is it's a dip switch related programming mechanism. So all you have to do is match the dip switches on either side and they're going to start talking. We can do point to point. We can do point to multi-point as well. And I think we can do up to 4 different jumps, right? Is it 4? I've heard all. Yeah. So if you got to kind of dog leg a transmission around a building or, you got a group of trees or something, you can bounce it up to 4 times off of each other to get there. And then from the multi-point aspect, what is it? 4? It's 4 as well, right?
No, I believe you get the one that everything's multicasting out to, and then you can have up to 7 devices that it reaches out to.
That's right. Any questions on the switches or the bridges? No? Okay. I'm doing a good job. If y'all ain't got questions, man, watch out. Okay. I'm not doing a good job is what you're telling me.
What's the bandwidth limit on those that broadcast?
Do you know off the top of your head, Aaron?
I don't, but
are we limited to 4 megabits?
Well, you're going to be limited. You're not necessarily limited by the resolution. You're limited to what you can transmit. Yeah, I get. Let him look into it. He'll find out the answer. I don't know off the top of my head. And The last thing I'm going to mention here, and we're just going to touch on this, is something called Hike Central. I know me and you have talked about it. Me and you've talked about it. So, in a lot of, kind of depending on, you know, your client, a lot of times doing the management and the navigation through the phone is usually fine, right? It's not a big deal. They don't necessarily want to do it through their computers. The phone gets the job done, or through the actual, you know, recorder itself. So Hike Central is, to me, a very integral piece if you're doing any sort of computer interfacing with the machines. Okay. Now, Aaron's got a good way of putting this. What do you call it? The dumbest, smartest software. I think is what this way you put it, right?
It is.
So, what I mean by that is it can be something very simple and it can be something very complex. What Hike Central is essentially it's a CMS. It's not a VMS. So we're not recording video to a server. All right. We can, but that's where we kind of get in the weeds on it a bit. But what we're able to do is if you're, say for instance, if you got something that's 32 channels or below, we've got a Hike Central package. It's a unified bundle. It's only a few $100. You can run it on a laptop, and it gives a very clean and seamless interface for people to manage their recorders and their cameras. It's a lot more streamlined than our 4200 software. It does require a little bit of a different setup because you can't use your QR code to do it. But it's a one pane of glass sort of concept. All right, we've deployed this nationwide with a major food retailer, and it's working. It's working like a champ. I mean, this stuff is proven. It's been out in the field. So essentially, what we're able to do with this is we're able to kind of unpeel the onion. So, and what I mean by that, it's like let's say we've got you got a client that has multiple sites, right? And they're a regional based whatever. So they have their owners, they have their managers, they have their regional managers, they have just this hierarchy of people. What we're able to do is we're able to specify restrictions and exceptions and access based on their user levels. So if I was just a general manager of store 1502, and they're only going to give me access to store 1502, I would use Hike Central and I would only see store 1502, even though the overall system may have a billion cameras on it, right? So what happens here is it only shows what they're supposed to see instead of seeing a whole system and seeing that they don't have access to cameras 3, 4, 5, and 6, and that leads to questioning and like, hey, what's going on? Where's this other camera? Why don't I have access? It also gives the people that need the higher access a way to get into the system and go to any store that they want to and may be able to manage it through one software instead of having to jump through and log in and out of multiple machines. So I can pull multiple cameras from wherever. I can download those cameras. I can do whatever. I can search all those cameras, all that kind of stuff. So like I said, I mean, it's really one pane of glass. I'm able to manage any facet. I forgot to put that in there. Forgot about that.
So, one question. So the administrator, the one who's in control of everything, will somehow, uh, so basically the people who are in control of everything, they'll supply, they'll have their own login, like the people who are there, I'm sorry, the people who's in control of everything, they give the information to the people who are lower, I guess you would say. And I guess they would have to have their own email addresses. Like, so let's say if so my guy here, he's a worker, right? And he basically wants to have access to my system. He can't use his own email address. You see what I'm saying? Like when you're setting up the Hike professional system.
So everybody's going to have their own individual specific login that they're going to be able to use. So you would just go in there, set up them a new user, and then the admin
Correct, yeah.
of Hike Central would have to go in there and set up different users for different people to be able to log into the system.
Yeah.
You can't have multiple people logged in under one user. It's going to kick someone out or not let them, or let them be able to log in at all. So different users for everybody that's trying to get on the system. No worries.
Yep. We got it. We understood. Yep.
I know where you're going.
Yep. And for me, guys, that's it. And Batman says thank you.